That's our new student, Chaya. So, that's the problem. She's cute, and then I don't have your attention. How was the class? His daughter is so cute. What was the class about? I don't know, some blue ribbons or something. Tov, Chodesh Tov. Beautiful month. We are entering now the month of Iyar. Iyar is a very, very special month. And if one takes the power of the month, a lot can be achieved. And as we always do our all the classes, is what can we really achieve throughout the month. Every month has a certain power, a certain motion, a certain character trait. And our student is leaving now. Here, take. Every month has a certain energy that I need to tap into and to derive the benefit of that energy. So the month of Iyar, the sign is a shor, a Taurus, which represents stubborn, to be very, very stubborn, which can be good and can be bad. We're going to talk about how everything can be dissected for good and bad. And the element of the month is the element of afar, of earth, very heavy, very powerful, and again has both the benefits of the positive and also negative. Earth is very heavy, which makes people very angry, very depressed, very sad, very lazy. But on the other hand, has the power of growth. You can take now a seed, put it on the table, and you can put whatever fertilizer you want and how many water you want. Nothing will grow out of it because it needs the power of the earth that has the power of growth. So anything in this world has both the benefit of the good and chas v'shalom the bad. We need to know how to direct it. So we have the power of stubborn, of the ox, of the Taurus, that can be utilized for positive, and chas v'shalom be against us for negative. Same thing with the element. The element is afar. Afar is earth, the very, very powerful element. The tribe that is connected to the month is the tribe of Issachar, which Issachar was known to be a tribe of scholars, very, very smart. They were known to be the Torah learners. Up until today, there's a very known deal between Zvulun and Issachar. Zvulun was the one who makes money, Issachar learns Torah. And Zvulun would support financially Issachar, and Issachar would share their Torah. So the month, the tribe that is connected to the month is the month of the tribe of Issachar. We're going to talk about it more later. And based on the book of Yetzirah, the book of formation, the letter that was that created the month is the letter Vav. But the star, as we mentioned in other classes, every month has a certain star that has a connection to the month and is powerful. In this month is the star of Noga, and the letter that created the star of Noga is the letter Pei, which creates together both combinations of Pei and Vav. Pei is the letter that created the star of Noga, and Vav is the letter that created the month. Together it's Pei Vav. Pei Vav has the numerical value of 86, which 86 is a very powerful number, because the numerical value of the name of Hashem, Elokim, is the same numerical value, 86. The name of Elokim represents the attribute of Din, of Gvura, which again, Gvura can be looked upon as something very negative, but at the same time, Gvura is a very positive thing, because everything has to have a little bit of Gvura in it. And if you don't have, even now with recounting the Omer, then we have Gvura Shebachesed. There's always going to be Gvura in something. If you don't have Gvura, it's almost like making a cake, and you don't have the yeast in it, and you get a flat cake. The Gvura might look at something negative, but the Gvura is something very positive. But the name Elokim, this shows on the attribute of Din, of judgment. Now, this is a month with a lot of light. It's called the month of light. First of all, the name of the month, Iyar, It has Aleph, Yud, Yud, Reish. This very resembles also the word light in Hebrew, Or. You have the Aleph, you have the Reish, and the Yud resembles a Vav. So just the name of the month already has some type of a connection to the power of light, of Or. Now, every month has also a biblical name, which we didn't mention it many times, but the biblical name of the month of Iyar is Yareach Ziv. Yareach is a moon and Ziv is a shine. We're going to talk soon also about the moon. How is that connected to this month? But the Ziv is a shine, is another form of light. We said the star of the month is Noga. Noga is light. Also the holiday that falls in the month of Iyar is Lag BaOmer. That's the holiday of light. We light bonfires. Also, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is considered the Butzina Kadisha, the holy light, the holy candle. So this is a month with a lot of light. That if Noga is the planet. Also Klipat Noga. We're going to get to that too.
So what's the English word?
For Noga? Wait, one by one. The English word for the planet Noga. Then we're going to look at the Rabbi Google and we're going to ask him. But the Noga, the word Noga is light. Noga is a light. How is it connected to Klipat Noga? We're going to talk about soon. And I don't want to jump the gun, but Noga is a mixture of good and bad. If you know to direct to the good, it will shine. If you take away the good, it will diminish. We'll get to that in a second, but I'm just now want to point how the month is a month of light. And the star is called Noga. Noga is light. Anytime that you will say the word Noga, it means that it has light in it. Now, Iyar is also considered the month of Refuah, of health. And the acronym of the word Iyar is the acronym of Ani Hashem Rofecha. I am your God, your healer. So we see from that it's not only a month full of light, it's a month of healing. The month that one can achieve a lot of health. And not only that, it's achieving the spiritual health. It's not only physical health, because one might find himself in a place that his spirituality is lacking, and in this month one can gain a lot of spiritual health. Now, the sign of the month, the Taurus, in Hebrew we call it a shor. Now in English, a shor is an ox, but the sign is called Taurus. The Hebrew word shor, every tribe has an animal. And the tribe of Yosef, our sage Yosef, he was compared to a ox, to a shor. Yehuda was compared to a lion. Each one was compared to a different animal. The animal that one of the tribes, we don't have the tribe of Yosef, we have Ephraim and Menashe, but the tribe that originates is Yosef, and the animal that attributes to Yosef is a shor. And even when Yaakov Avinu, we remember that when Yaakov Avinu was giving off the blessings to the tribes, and he was also telling them off. So he told about Yosef, Bechor Shoro Hadar Lo. He mentioned that Yosef is the ox. Now, the ox of we call it an ox because we take it from the language in Hebrew. In Hebrew we call shor. In English you say Taurus. But the story says that when Yosef HaTzadik died, he refused to be taken out of Mitzrayim. He told them, burying me, put me in a coffin and throw the coffin in the Niles, in the Iyar. And when it's time to go out, just remember to take the bones with me. Now, the Midrash says that how did they know where the bones are? They just threw it in the water. So there are a few opinions, but really what Moshe Rabbeinu did, that he came to the shore and he said two words. He said, Ale Shor. Now, in the blessing that Yaakov was giving Yosef, that he says, Bechor Shoro Hadar Lo, Moshe Rabbeinu just took the word Shor, because Yaakov called Yosef a Shor, and he said, Ale Shor. Ale means come up, and Shor he called Yosef, and the coffin just came up. Really what he said is, Moshe Rabbeinu just said a few holy words, a few names of the Kadosh Baruch Hu, and the Midrash says that the name that he said was the name, a holy name from the 72 names, that is Yud Lamed Yud. If you remember, many times I gave you an example that when somebody wants to pray for somebody's well-being, then there is two places in the prayer of Kabbalat Shabbat, of before Friday night. There are two verses that I pointed out, the acronym of Yud Lamed Yud. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll tell you later which video you can find it. There is a video on my website, and the title of the video is a little bit extreme. The title of the video is called, Is the World Going to be Nuked? And there's the thumbnail is a nuclear explosion, but that's just the thumbnail and the title to get attention. But in this video, around the 18 or 17 or 19 minutes, there is a point where I'm explaining this whole concept about the Yud Lamed Yud. I don't want to go too much in it, but in the 72 names of Hashem, each name has a certain power. The name Yud Lamed Yud is the name of refuah, of healing. Spiritual healing, physical healing, and so forth. And when you know how to meditate on these letters, that's how one can achieve health and salvation. So Moshe Rabbeinu, when he approached the Niles, he didn't know where the bones are, so he just said the holy name, Yud Lamed Yud, in the way it needs to be said, and he just said, Alesho, come up, ox. And again, ox is a Taurus, that's the connection to the month. And then the bones came up. Now, the word, the name, Yud Lamed Yud, the numerical value is 50, because 50 represents the completion. We know there are 50 gates of purity, and Chas v'Shalom 50 gates of impurity. And the thing that is against or opposes the health is somebody who's sick. Sick in Hebrew is called chole. That's how you say sick in Hebrew. Chole has the numerical value of 49. Chet Vav Lamed and Hey. The person who's sick is missing one level of holiness. If the person possesses 50 levels of holiness, 50 Sha'arei 50 levels of holiness, you don't have to be a tzaddik for that, then the person is not going to be sick. Why a person gets sick? Because he has one level of holiness that is lacking, which brings him to the level of 49. That's why the word sick in Hebrew is chole, for the exact same numerical value of 49. So, the month of Iyar has a very strong power of healing. The month of healing can be physical healing, can be spiritual healing. Now, what does it mean that the ox came up when Moshe Rabbeinu told Yosef, Aleh Shor, is the concept of what's called to elevate sparks, godly sparks, aliyah shel mitzotzot kedusha. That by elevating the bones, so to say, of Yosef, this is the concept of healing, is elevating sparks of holiness. When I eat, and I say a blessing, assuming I eat something kosher, and I say a bracha, then I take the sparks out of the food, and I elevate it to kedusha, to holiness. That's assuming I'm following all the rules. Has to be kosher, has to say a blessing, I have to say the after blessing. And you know when I take these sparks up? Late at night when I go to sleep. That's the reason why we go to sleep. If you ever wondered why we sleep, not because I get tired, because my body technically can function much more than what I think. But my soul gets tired. That's why I become tired and then I go to sleep. My soul becomes tired not because the soul has energy of becoming tired. Rather, the soul is not fed with the right energy. That's why you see with tzaddikim, they don't sleep. We know the Arizal barely slept. Even in our generation, we know, as a proof for that, we know that Lubavitcher Rebbe would barely sleep. He had dozens of people around him all day long to know he doesn't go to sleep. So we see that with tzaddikim, they don't go to sleep much. Why? Because the little sleep that they need that's it. And the little sleep that they need is not to gain energy. They get their energy from their soul. They get their energy from their mitzvahs, from their Torah. They don't need to sleep. The reason why we go to sleep is because all the sparks of holiness that I elevated, that I more to say sifted that day, they need to be elevated. And that's when I take them up, when I go to sleep. That's why I say Kriyat Shema L'Amita. There are many reasons why we say Kriyat Shema L'Amita. One of them is to prepare for the journey. I'm about to go now to my source, to my journey, and I'm taking with me a lot of godly sparks. I ate, I learned Torah, I did mitzvot. I'm now possessing a lot of nitzotzot kedusha, sparks of holiness, and I need to take them where they belong. So I have to go to sleep for that. And while I'm sleeping, my body gets rejuvenated, but my neshama goes and delivers it. So the concept of this nitzotzot kedusha, the sparks of holiness, is that it needs to be elevated. And if the sparks of holiness will not be elevated, then they're staying where they are, and that's not good. So the concept of the Taurus, the ox of Yosef, is elevating these nitzotzot kedusha. That's where my health comes from. Amazingly, we're not going to have time to talk about that. I just want to say it as a detail that in the month of Iyar is when the man started coming down, because the Jews left in Nisan. Only in Iyar, the man, the food that they had for 40 years in the desert, that's when it started coming, because they were able to elevate these godly sparks before, which caused a blessing to come from above. This is called in the Kabbalistic terminology Itaruta Diltata, an awakening from below that triggers a Itaruta Dilela, an awakening from above, that the energy can come back down. So just the motion of the month, that if I focus the right way, the healing that I can get, both spiritually and physically, is the most auspicious time. Now, going back to the two letters, the Pei and the Vav, that they formed the number of 86, the Pei and the Vav has a very special connection between one another. There is one way of calculating letters. It's called Chishuv Atbash. Atbash is that you take one letter and you switch it with a letter that is in the same position from the end. So Aleph will be switched with Taf, because Aleph is the first letter and Taf is the last letter. So Bet will be switched with Shin. Right? You follow what I'm saying? This is called Chilufei Otiyot, that you switch letters. This is used when you calculate all sorts of numerical values. And not only that, there is a connection between the letters. So Aleph will switch Taf, Bet will switch Shin. That's why it's called Atbash. At is Aleph and Taf, and Bash is Bet and Shin. But if you go by the order, Vav and Pei meet, because you have Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav. Vav is the sixth letter in, Pei is the sixth letter from the back, if you count from Taf. Taf, Shin, Reish, Kuf, Tzadik, Pei. So Vav and Pei, they meet. So we see a very powerful connection even between the two letters that create the months, how they meet in the month of Iyar. Now, what does that represent, that the two letters meet? So I told you that the star that corresponds to the month is Noga. And you asked about the Klippa of Noga. Yes, the world was created mainly with Klippat Noga. Klippat Noga is the mixture of good and bad. Half good, half bad. Everything in this world has a mixture. Before that, when the time of Gan Eden, when Adam and Chava were in Gan Eden, there wasn't the concept of Klippat Noga, because there was only good. They only saw good. Everything was good, they saw godliness. Then they brought the existence of the sin, of the bad, and with that they brought the confusion and the deception of the world, that the good and the bad are mixed together. This is what's called in the Kabbalistic term the secret of tree of knowledge, Sod Etz Hadat, because the tree of knowledge is a mixture of good and bad. And as I mentioned in numerous times, that our entire service of God is sifting between the good and the bad. This is kosher, this is not. This is pure, this is impure. This is permitted, this is not permitted. My entire service is constantly the good and the bad, the good and the bad. This is the concept of Klippat Noga, that Klippat Noga is an existence, it's a power of creation that is mixed a little bit good and a little bit bad. It's almost like, you buy these juices and it says to you, it's orange juice. And it's made out of fresh oranges. So you're saying, wow, it's good. But since it's wrapped in a bottle, there's also a little bit of preservatives there, so it's mixed with bad. Now I'm not talking about the juices that says 100% natural and it's the 0% natural. That's already lying. That's not what I'm talking about. And today you will buy a product and it will tell you 0 fat or no sugar added or no food coloring. Yeah, it's purple, but there's no food coloring. So this is already a different type of deception. But in this world we see that everything has a mixture of good and bad. This is called the concept of Klipat Noga. In this month, when the star Noga is in control, and the 2 letters that I mentioned, Vav and Pei, Pei is the letter that created the star, and Vav is the letter that created the month. You have the Pei and the Vav. What do they form? I told you before, it's the numerical value of 86, which is the Midat Adin. It has to be Din. What is Din? Din is a law. Din is that you put a case now, let me now decide what would be the Din. You asked me before about when we talked about Lashon Hara. This happened. What should be the Din? Din is the law. What would be the decree? Oh, you have to let me see the case. You go now to a judge or a rabbi who's a judge, and you tell him a case. He tell you, give me more information. Let's bring witnesses. Let's hear both sides. I have to hear. Then I'll give my judgment, my Din. So Midat Adin is not necessarily to go against me and to arouse a judgment against me. Rather is to take a case and to know how to bring down a judgment. I don't know if judgment is the right word, but in Hebrew you would say Din. This is my decree. This is the decision. So Midat Adin is for me to understand what is the right thing, what is good and what is bad. Now, the whole concept of Klipat Noga is to understand between the good and the bad. And to understand that everything has good in it and everything has bad in it. And this corresponds to this concept of the 2 letters meeting each other. That you have 2 sides that they merge. Now, what is the concept of Noga? Is that if I take the good out of the bad, you know what happens? Everything becomes good. But if I don't take the good out of the bad, then it all becomes bad. That's the problem with Klipat Noga, that I have the ability of transforming everything, even the bad, into good. But that's only if I know how to separate them. If I don't do that, then it will all fall down into the bad. That's why you see that if I'm able to make a distinguish, this is kosher, this is not, then you know what I make? I make everything around it holy and kosher. But if I don't take it out, then now everything will be not kosher. So the concept, the avodah of Klipat Noga, and this is not what I'm talking about, I just want to present the situation, is the concept of in this month, the 2 opposites merge. They, so to say, collide with each other. They meet. And this is the month that I can make my separation. This way I get the energy, the power of the separation. Now, there's always an organ that corresponds to one of the months. In the month of Iyar, the organ is the kidney, klaya. Now our sages say that our kidney is our advisor, that the kidney is the yoetz, it gives me advice. But what is this advice? Is that advice comes to tell you, usually when you want to have advice, should I buy this property? Should I invest here? Should I marry that person? You need somebody's advice. And that person says, okay, let me think about it, and I will let you know what's my advice. Now, if it's a sharp person, if it's business deal, the financial advisor will tell you, buy the property. Don't buy it. It's not a good investment. But the one who gives advice needs to have enough information. This is what the kidney does. The motion of the kidney is to give advice, but it has a lot of information. Now, we always talk about a certain character trait, which I call it a sense. Because in Hebrew it's called chush. Now, chush is not necessarily something that you actually feel, like a sense. Chush is something that you have, like a talent. But every month there's a certain sense. If you're following the classes, you notice that every month we're talking about a different sense. The month of Iyar, the sense is called hirhur. And hirhur is a thought. Now really the sense is not called hirhur. The word that it's used is iyun. Iyun is to, it's like iyun, the translation of iyun is inspection. But it's not really an inspection. Iyun is more to study something. Now I can learn now Torah. And I can just read, like a machine. This is called that I didn't learn it be'iyun. I just read it. I didn't really dissect it. But I can take now a piece of the portion of the weekly parasha and open the commentaries, and we're mainly familiar with Rashi. There's many other commentaries, Metzudat David, and so many commentaries. I can take now a book. I have a book that has 12 commentaries, famous commentaries, and for one verse that you read out of the parasha, you can read 12 commentaries from different commentaries, not only Rashi. Everybody what they had to say. Also, when you learn halacha, you can learn the actual halacha, and you can learn the commentaries. In Shulchan Aruch, there's a concept that is called tur. Tur is, there are 4 commentaries on the Shulchan Aruch. It's called the tur. And when you learn halacha be'iyun, the right way, you learn the actual halacha, what the Shulchan Aruch says, and then you learn the tur. You learn what the commentary says, because each one has something to say about it. No, you're mixing Baal HaTurim. Baal HaTurim, that's one commentary. But in Shulchan Aruch, you will see, if you go to a shul or you look, there's something that is called Arba Turim. And if you open the book, you see the halachas in the middle and 4 sides, 4 types of commentaries. Now, when you just read the halacha real quick, you learned it. But to really delve into it and to dissect it and to understand and why it got to this halacha, that's what you do when you're learning the Talmud. When you learn the Talmud, you can't just read it. You have to first reread a few lines. Let's see what Rashi says. Let's see what Tosfos says. Let's see what all the Mefarshim says. This is called Lilmod Be'iyun. That I really go into it, I dig into it. So Iyun, I wouldn't say necessarily is inspection. That is the translation. But Iyun is more to study the case. So the chush, the emotion, the sense of the month is Iyun. One way of explaining it is hirhur. Hirhur is thinking. Now hirhur is not that hirhur is a thought, but it's not a one-time thought. You're thinking it over and over and over. You don't do it right away. You might remember that in the world of sin, there is a concept that is called avera, the sin. This is doing it, and there's also something that's called hirhur avera, thinking of sinning. Now we have all day long hirhurim. Now unfortunately our sages say that thinking of a sin is worse than the sin. Why? Because I'm damaging the level of thought, the garment of thought. And not only that it penetrates to a much more refined level in my neshama, my thoughts. But all day long I have thoughts. And they can be something as simple as I want to eat another cookie even though I had already 20. This is not really a sin, but it's not a good thing to do. But all day long I have what's called hirhurei avera. And a person can have a hirhur avera for months before the Yetzer Hara will be able to break him and make him do the sin. So hirhur is a thought that you contemplate and you dissect it or inspect it or study it. You have all these hirhurim. On the positive side of it, you can have a hirhur tshuva. I can do now tshuva, and sometimes I can do just hirhur tshuva. And our sages teach us that a hirhur tshuva is enough. Sometimes just the thinking of the tshuva can get you out of the mess. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says that a person, a minute before he dies, a second before he dies, does hirhur tshuva, thinks of the tshuva, in 1 second he reversed the situation. Person can do tshuva in his mind. So that's how powerful our mind is. So hirhur is a very deep study and inspection of something. So the sense of the mind is iyun, which is a hirhur, it's a machshava, which we're already seeing from that the power of the month is in the level of machshava. It's a very high level month and what can be achieved. Now, To connect it all together, we mentioned that the tribe of the month is the tribe of Issachar. The tribe of Issachar were known to be the Talmidei Chachamim. They were the scholars. That all the scholars always came from the tribe of Issachar. They were called Mechashvei Bina. That's how this tribe of Issachar were called. Why? Now we are very spoiled. We have calendars. Many years ago they didn't have calendars. They had to calculate the calendar. And the scholars from the tribe of Issachar, they knew the calculation. It's a very sophisticated calculation. Very few people are able to calculate the months, the cycle of the moon. That's one of many proofs that the Torah is divine, because now they find out that with sophisticated telescopes, they were able to come to the exact, not in the exact even, to the most precise cycle of the moon, which 3,000 years ago we had already the mathematical equation how to get to that calculation, and this is calculated on a fraction of a second, a 12th of a second. This is called chalakim, chelek. If you notice in the shul when they announce the Rosh Chodesh, they say the hour, the minute, and the chelek. This is a fraction of a second. So we had that knowledge thousands of years ago, now they're getting into it with equipment, with computers and telescopes. So Bnei Issachar, they were so wise, they were the ones who were calculating the times. They were called, as a pasuk in the Tanakh, that it's talking about the sons of Issachar, and it says that they were calculating the itim. So, and the verse that it was used is Yodei Mechashvei Bina. That's the verse that it comes from. The verse is Yodei Bina Leitim. This is the verse in Tanakh, and it's talking about the sons of Issachar. They knew how to calculate the time. Itim is the time. Now, what is the word that they're using? Yodei Bina Leitim. Yodei is knowing, Bina is the wisdom, the knowledge, and Leitim is the times. So we see that we have a connection between Issachar, the tribe of Issachar, to the sphere of Bina. Now Bina is not such a simple sphere. It's the most sophisticated sphere if you want to really dissect it. Why? Because it's taking the machshava, the concept, from Chokhmah and dissecting it. So one might say, oh, Chokhmah is higher. It's the source of the knowledge. But Bina is able to take it, dissect it, chew it, and hand it over. So that is a much, much more powerful attribute. Is the attribute of, it's not an attribute, it's a more of an intellect. But you know, the husband of Bina is Chokhmah. They come together. Chokhmah and Bina, they come together. They're both mochin, what's called machshava. Chokhmah is the source of it, and Bina is dissecting it. And the advantage, the upper hand that Bina has, is taking something very, very high and able to deliver it very low. And that's much greater than the Chacham. I know many people that are geniuses in the Torah. They don't know how to deliver the knowledge. So the Bina has the ability to take something from such a high level and to be able to break it down and to deliver it to a very simple mind. That's the power of Bina. But Bina and Chokhmah, they go together. The power of the machshava. Amazing. That first of all, we know that in Kabbalah, Chokhmah and Bina are not called Chokhmah and Bina, they're called Ima and Abba. Chokhmah is Abba and Bina is Ima. In Kabbalah, in books of Kabbalah, you're not going to find so much the words Chokhmah and Bina. Rather, you'll find Ima and Abba. The Abba is a father, Ima is a mother. In the world, in the physical world, the father is the one that delivers the sperm, and the woman takes the sperm and starts developing it. So one might say the father is important. Without the sperm, there's nothing there. Yes, but the mother has the tools to dissect it, to cook it, and to develop it. But they always go together. Now, amazingly, you see that the woman is compared to Bina, and the father is compared to Chokhmah. That's why I said Abba is Chokhmah and Bina is mother. Now, where do we learn that the woman comes from Bina? because our sages say that a woman has bina yetera, extra part of bina, is because if you remember in the book of Bereshit, first was created only Adam Arishon, then he was put to sleep, and what is the verse saying? Vayiven, and he built Hashem Elokim etzem. So you take the word Vayiven, it's the letters of bina, same letters. Vayiven, Vav, Yud, Beit, Nun, it's bina. That's where you take from that the woman came from bina. Adam, man was chokhmah, he was possessing the knowledge, but bina had to come out of Adam Arishon. That's why it is a big question. Why couldn't Hashem just create also Chava? Why the whole ceremony and anesthesia and a whole surgery and cutting the rib, and I mean, there's all sorts of nice slogans from Hallmark, because the man should know that she's a part of him, and all sorts of like nice slogans that you can put on stickers. But why did Hashem have to do this whole show? Let him just and create a woman. This teaches us that Adam represented the Chokhmah, the sphere of Chokhmah. Bina had to come out from him. So even when it manifested into the world, Hashem had to put Adam to sleep, and then he had to take the tzela out, had to take it out. But then it says something very interesting. It uses the word vayiven. It shouldn't say that word. Vayiven means and he built. It comes from the word livnot. It should have said v'lakach Hashem Elokim et hatzela, lakach, and he took it. Some other words, but it says vayiven. From this we learn that the woman that was taken out of Adam, then she's the bina. The bina corresponds to the mother. Now, another relations that we see that are very similar to the relations of bina, chokhmah and bina, or father and mother, husband and wife, is the connection between the sun and the moon. And they have the same relation. Now, amazingly, the numerical value of chama and levana, chama is sun, levana is moon. The numerical value of both of them is 140. Chama and levana. Chama is again sun, and levana is the moon. Chokhmah bina, not chokhmah vebina, chokhmah bina is the numerical value of 140. The exact same numerical value. So sun and moon is equivalent to chokhmah and bina. Where do we see the relations? If you would now get some type of knowledge that comes from bina, from chokhmah, you can't use it. It's useless to us. And even now a big tzaddik will come and bring us some type of knowledge from chokhmah, it's useless for us. I have on my bookshelf dozens of books of Kabbalah that if you open them, I can guarantee to you that you're not going to understand one word. And I'm not saying it because I don't understand anything there. It's not that I'm chas v'shalom saying it and not right. I will open it, I understand the words. I don't understand one thing from what the author said. Why? Because this Mekubal, doesn't matter right now who it is, was sitting in some type of a spiritual state that his mind is in Olam HaTzilut. He sees things and he writes it. Can we understand what he's writing? We don't understand nothing. Now, this is not even to compare, but look, for example, the prophecies of Yechezkel or Yirmiyah. You think you understand something from that? You read the prophecies of Yechezkel. You don't understand one thing. Why? A prophet, his mind is in Olam HaTzilut. He sees all sorts of things. He writes it down in his metaphorical or poetic way. Now go to understand what he wants. So the same thing is in the teachings of Kabbalah. This is such a high wisdom coming from Chokhmah, it's useless to me. I don't know anything. I don't understand nothing. But then will come a certain individual that will be able to take from the Chokhmah, dissect it, and then deliver it in a nice way, and now I understand. But that takes a very, very powerful mind. That can only come from Bina. When I compare that to the sun and the moon, the light of the sun is almost useless. Because if I would look directly in the sun, I don't get anything. I will get blinded. The benefit from the sun is only when it gets filtered by ultraviolet layers, by many different ways, then I can benefit from the sun. Looking directly in the sun will not benefit me, it will harm me. If hypothetically you would put somebody in front of the sun, he would melt. So we see that when you compare the sun, Chokhmah, that it's unbelievable power, but it's useless to me. I can't approach it. I can't derive anything from it. But if I take a certain tool, I will be able to derive a lot out of the sun. Take now a certain reflector, and you can create energy from the sun. The light of the sun, you can't grab the energy. But take, I don't know how you call them in English, but there are these reflectors. How? I don't know, there must be a word for that. You know, in Israel, you know, all the hot water is by these reflectors, Dudei Shemesh, the solar panels. So, solar panel is the way to get energy. The Lubavitcher Rebbe said that when Mashiach is going to come very soon, our energy is only going to be solar. We're not going to have energy from any type of other type of energy. We're only going to use solar energy. Cars, everything. I mean, we're going to have technology. We're going to have, the world is going to be the same when Mashiach comes. Just that we're not going to have pollutions from power plants and digging oil out of the ground and damaging the earth. You know, just yesterday somebody sent me this video of this special Japanese boat that can dig 3,000 miles, 3,000 feet or whatever amount into the core of Earth to be able to figure out the movements inside the globe to prevent earthquakes and volcanoes and all these natural disasters. The joke was that they say that this ship will only go into action in like 2036. Like, great. So I have another 20 years of natural disasters. But the point is that we don't realize that we're digging all day long into this world, and we're pulling hundreds of thousands or millions of gallons of oil and gas and all sorts of things. Then people they wonder why we have earthquakes and volcanoes and storms, because the inside is all messed up. It's almost like giving somebody bad food, and all day long he will throw up and will have gases and stuff like that. Yeah, the food you put in is bad. So we damage this world, and then we complain. So this is completely off the subject, but the point is that very soon when Mashiach is going to come, our energy is going to be solar. Why? Because the power of the sun is so powerful, we just don't know how to deal with it yet. So now we're getting hints. So a couple of decades ago, they figured out the solar panels. So now they use it to heat water, they use it for public lights. You see that in many countries they have a little solar panel next to the traffic light. And the traffic lights, they work on solar panels. So very soon our entire energy will be on solar. What do I see from that? That the power that is in the sun is unbelievable. The sun can heal, the sun can do so many good things. It says that very soon when Mashiach is going to come, לעתיד לבוא, Kadosh Baruch Hu motzi chama min artika. The Kadosh Baruch Hu is going to take the sun out of its pocket, and it says, tzadikim mitrapim, that the righteous people will be cured by the power of the sun, v'harashaim nidonim, and the wicked people will not be able to sustain the light and will just have to go. They will have to go. What does it mean they will have to go? They won't be able to stay here. That's why we know that two-thirds of the population of the world will not survive the coming of Mashiach. Excuse me? Who will decide who's wicked? The Torah decides who's wicked. The Torah gives you a definition, what's a Rasha. We don't decide. We don't have a courthouse that decides who's a wicked person. The Torah tells us. But we don't... Excuse me? Of course it's a spiritual light, but the entire time of Mashiach is spiritual. Again, I don't want to sidetrack now. I want to make the point that the sun is possessing unbelievable powers, but we don't know how to utilize them. Slowly now with technology we're learning how to utilize the power of the sun. But this is compared to Chokhmah, that Chokhmah is holding in it so much information, but it's useless to us. We don't know how to even use it. On the other hand, Bina is the part that actually we can relate with. Comparing the moon to Bina, we derive some type of benefit from the light of the moon. because the moon is filtered light. It's getting its light from the sun. So the Bina has to get its shefa, its abundance from Chokhmah. Bina cannot be without Chokhmah. Like a woman, a woman without a husband, she withers. A woman, even if the husband is not such a great husband, she needs a husband.
I thought it was the other way around.
No, the woman the woman, in most cases, unfortunately, it's sad to say, in most cases, husbands are not that great. They're not so sensitive to the needs of the wife. But the woman needs the husband. She needs the man around her. She needs his energy. She needs his mitzvot. We're not going to start going now into the relations here. We're not going to get into that. Yeah, we don't want to start about that. But in essence, if you want to go to the essence of things, Bina can be individually functioning like a woman, but she still needs to get some type of a shefa from somewhere. And that shefa comes from Chokhmah. And whether you like it or not, it's a cycle. In order for the Bina to be able to function, she needs to get ashpa from Chokhmah. Chokhmah will be delivered from the husband. Hopefully, we're wishing that the husbands will have Chokhmah to know how to treat their wives. That's why the man will go and learn Torah, so his sphera will be enlightened with Chokhmah, with Torah. But bemet, not to sidetrack too much, the Bina is depending on Chokhmah. It needs it. But once it gets its shefa, its abundance from the sphera of Chokhmah, it's independent. And really the hashpa that comes to all the midot under the mochin is only coming from Bina. We talked about the beginning of the week about Sfirat HaOmer, and I explained to you that we're refining the midot. That's why we have 7 times 7, from Chesed to Malchut. But I mentioned that Bina is corresponding to the number 8, and it's above the nature, above the Sfirot, and that's Bina. So Bina really needs to derive its Hamshacha, its Shefa from Chokhmah, but then it becomes the Mashpia. Now, there's a very interesting verse in the book of Kohelet. This is written by Shlomo HaMelech, by King Solomon, and it's talking about there's a time for everything. One of the things that it says, Et laledet ve'et lamut, and it's a whole part of the psalm. And it used the word et. Et means time, the right time. Like I told you before, that the Bnei Sachar were considered mechashvei bina leitim. Et is a time. So in this part in Kohelet, it's talking about the itim. If you counting the word et, you find 28 times the word et. Just that it's divided in half. 14 are positive and 14 are negative. Because it says et laledet, that's positive, et lamut. Et laledet means there's a time to give birth, and et lamut is the time to die. So from the 28 18 times, there are 14 that are positive, 14 that are negative. And these correspond to the cycle of the moon. There are 14 positive days and 14 negative days. The positive days when the moon is being replenished or being built, and the 14 negative days when it starts diminishing. So technically we have 28 days, but when you calculate the 18, sometime it will go into the 29th day or the 30th day. But when it comes to calculating 18 times, there are 14 and 14. That's how you calculate it. Now, the 14 days, the cycle of the moon, it hints to us on the power of the woman, because the woman also has her cycle through the months. And amazingly, the tribe that calculated the times, the periods, the itim, is the month of Issachar, is the tribe of Issachar. And if you remember the story that Leah, who's the mother, and Leah, by the way, in Kabbalah, Leah is the Ima Ilah, is Bina, because there are two mothers. The Ima Ilah, this is Leah, Ima Tata'ah, there is Rachel. Leah bought that night from Rachel. when she got pregnant with Issachar. If you remember the story, that she bought the night, and when Yaakov went to Rachel, Leah came and says, "Well, tonight you're with me. I purchased this night." And when Yaakov was with her that night, then she had Issachar. So the hint that we see, that again the connection between Issachar and the Bina, that the mother who's called Bina, who's Leah, she bought Issachar, so to say. She bought that child. Rachel should have had him, but she possessed him. This is a whole different concept about the teachings in Kabbalah, about the two mothers, about Rachel and Leah, that Rachel is Malchut, she's the Ima Tata, Leah is the Bina, the Ima Elah. The whole concept of what we need to do, especially in Sfirat HaOmer, is to take all the Midot, that is called Zeir Anpin, from the Malchut and elevate it into Bina, to its source. That's what we're doing in Sfirat HaOmer, in basic words. We're refining the Midot, it all funnels to what's the last day, Malchut Sheba Malchut, and then we elevate it all to its source, to Bina. So the connection that we see all together is that in the month of Iyar, there's a special extra power for the Sfira of Bina. If you notice, the entire month of Iyar is in the Omer. There's a little bit in Sivan, a little bit in Nisan, but the entire month, it's the only month that is completely in the Omer. So to break it down to practicality, we said it's a month of light. We're all in some type of a darkness because we just came out of Mitzrayim. We are in our own Mitzrayim, in our own exile. Whether it's finance, whether it's health, whether it's relationships, whatever it is, but we're stuck in some type of darkness. This is the month to enlighten, to bring out this light. More than that, it's the month of healing, the month of refuah, physical and spiritual. How is it corresponding and how do I get it? By using the sense of the iyun. Is the hirhur, is thoughts, that I have to sift between the good and the bad. I have to use my mind. If you remember last class that we had about Sfirat HaOmer, I explained to you that in the 10 Sfirot there are 3 groups that are called Chabad, Chagat, Nehi. If you weren't here, watch the video, it's already online. It's very important that you understand that, because there are 10 Sfirot, and I presented a question, why do we count 49 days when it says in the Torah that we should count 50 days? It says literally, Tisperu lachem 50 yom, 50 days. Moshe Rabbeinu did not have a typo, but we count 49. So very briefly, I explained that we have 3 groups. The first group is Chochmah, Bina, and Dat. The second group is Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet. The third group is Netzach, Hod, Yesod. Malchut is put aside. That's the 50. Each one of them has 10 Sfirot in them. Chochmah, Bina, and Dat. If you take 3 together, they have 10 Sfirot, which will make 3 groups. We have 30 Sfirot. The point in Sfirat HaOmer is to refine my emotions, which is Netzach, Hod, and Yesod, my emotions, my inclinations, my feelings, and to elevate it to the intellect, to refine it. How do I do that? I elevate it to the Chesed, Gvura, and Bina, which corresponds to my intellect. That I have to see things with my mind and not my emotions. Somebody hurts me, instead of impulsively reacting, I have to think, what is the right thing to do? So in this month, when the star that is in control is Noga, the letters, we said the Pei and the Vav, they merge. This is the time that I have the most auspicious time to do what's called the Avodat HaBerurim, is sifting between the good and the bad. Is what is good, what is bad. Because everything has a little bit of good in it, has a little bit of bad in it. I mentioned in the last class that you can have the emotion of happiness, and happiness is a very positive thing. I can be happy for you now because you got married, and I can be happy for you because you made $1 million. And I can be happy for you because you got promoted. But I can also see my enemy suffer, and I can be happy for him. Happy for me that my enemy is suffering. That's not a positive happiness. That's a very, very negative happiness. So every emotion has good and bad in it. So in the month of Iyar has the concept of the good and the bad. I have to use the sense of iyun, of dissecting. When I want to learn halacha, I cannot learn what we're learning now, the laws, all the halachot that we learn. This is really on the surface. We're not really going deep into the halacha. This is after it was dissected, and I'm just giving it to you, the practical halacha, don't do this, don't do that. This is not iyun. Iyun is going into the depth. Why did the halacha is like that? Why there are so many different opinions? Where is it coming from? This is iyun. So my entire being has to be dwelled and inspected and taught and studied. Is this really good? Is this really bad? Is this really what I need to do? Is this really the right way? And this is the month that I'm able to do that. And when I do that, that's what's going to give me my healing. That's going to be the power that brings out from me the refuah, and the power of healing in this month, both spiritual, emotional, mental, everything. So I need to dwell, to take my machshava. Now for you it's even an advantage, because a woman already has bina yetera. Doesn't mean that the man doesn't have bina. The woman has an extra bina. So for a woman it's even much better to be able to use, to reach to her essence, and to be able to pull out what is the good here. Is that really the good thing to do? And by that I'm able to reach into my ultimate healing. And Bezat Hashem, if I focus on this month, this gives me, of course, the power for the rest of the year. So Bezat Hashem, we should utilize this month to be elevated, to rejuvenate. That's why we count the Omer, because we're developing a new reality. What the Arizal says, how I mentioned in the last class, that this is the days that every day a new light is being born and I can tap into it. So this is the month that I need to concentrate on the most on my spiritual growth. This is the month of concentrating on it. To be able to sift between the good and the bad, this is not good for me. It's stopping my spiritual growth. If I don't have spiritual growth, I'm not going to have emotional or physical growth, because it comes from the spiritual. So you want to take good attention of this month, to be able to really understand what I can achieve in this month, my spiritual growth, my physical and spiritual healing, to learn a lot more about Sfirat Omer. And like I said, till Shavuot, we're going to have a lot of classes about the Omer. We had already 2, Baruch Hashem. You can find them online if you missed them. They are very interesting and practical. It's not about just saying today is the 12th day. That's not the point. The point is to understand what am I elevating and refining, and to utilize it to such a point that from that I go into the month of receiving the Torah. This will allow me to reach to the level that I can receive the Torah again. Every year we can receive the Torah. And if we're lucky, if Hashem decides to bless us, then this Shavuot we'll receive the Torah from the mouth of Mashiach. As Mashiach is going to come and says, the Torah Chadasha Meiti Titzeh, we're going to receive an addition to the Torah. Bezat Hashem, this should happen this Shavuot. In the meantime, you should have a beautiful Chodesh, a very successful and healing and happy Chodesh. And Bezat Hashem should only have good news.